What role does risk assessment and risk management play in the SOC 2 process? It's key to understand the differences. Risk assessment is a point in time. You assess your risks, you rank the likelihood, you rank the impact, and then you see what the risk is to your organization. If the risk is too high based on your risk tolerance, you implement mitigating controls and put risk treatment plans together. Risk management, however, is management of risk over the life cycle of risks, identifying, detecting, remediating. And it's not just a point in time assessment. It's really about all sources of risk, whether it's from your vendors, from a vulnerability scan, from penetration testing, from control assessments, from a bug bounty program, from any other type of source, from maybe there's a new threat out there, MFA fatigue, right? Does that impact us? So it's really identifying all those sources and managing those risks over time and putting together risk treatment plans and assessing risks, identifying risks. So risk assessment is more of a point in time. It's a control you implement, but risk management is really a process and the whole life cycle of everything. What risk management methodology do auditors typically look for? So there is no defined risk management methodology in the standard. You can use any methodology you want. However, many auditors look for NIST 830 guidance. NIST 830 calls out likelihood and impact. Likelihood is about how likely a risk is to occur in your organization, and impact is how much of an impact would that risk have on your organization if it were to occur. So you can use a basic scale, 1 to 5, 1 being very unlikely, 5 being very, very, very likely, impact 1 being very low, 5 being very high. You take those two numbers, you multiply them together, and you get your risk. You then have to put together a risk tolerance in your risk assessment policy. For example, if the risk is 15 or higher, we have to put in mitigating controls. If the risk is 15 or less, we might accept that risk. However, this has to be called out in your risk assessment policy so that an auditor can understand, have you decided what your risk tolerance is? Do you know when you have to put risk treatment plans in place? And do you know when you can accept the risk? What evidence is typically required for a risk assessment during a SOC 2 audit? The main piece of evidence that you need to provide is your actual risk assessment report. Your auditors want to see all the risks that you evaluated, which ones you identified as having too high of a risk, which ones you accepted, and which ones you decided that you had to put mitigation plans in place for. Once you have that risk assessment report in their hands, they're going to go through it, and they're probably going to ask for the actual mitigation plans for the ones that you called out as too high of a risk. They're going to want to see any tickets you put together for assigning and tracking those risk treatment plans. They're going to want to see who was assigned to be the risk owner. They're going to want to see where the plans implemented. If they weren't implemented, was there a reason why they weren't implemented? They're going to want to understand if you said that this risk was high and it needs to be mitigated within 30 days, did you meet your own SLA as part of your risk assessment policy? They're going to look for all these things because they want to understand not only did you identify the risk, but did you treat the risk appropriately? Now, if you did a risk assessment close to when your auditors are coming in, a lot of these risks will probably still be pending mitigation. In that case, you can show them that mitigation is in place and they should accept that.